special treat for you guys today from the archives, from the secret, undisclosed Bigfoot Pentagon repository of data and unknown information. Comes something straight from the archives. This is a letter I received from a lady that had had an encounter with a Sasquatch. November 23rd, 2014. Background. A little bit of background. My husband and I should do this in a woman's voice. My husband and I are from Raleigh, and we went to move to the mountains for a change of pace. Yeah, that's going to get old quick, isn't it? And decided to lease a home in Burnsville by... Alright, I'm gonna release this information by Mount Mitchell. Burnsville by Mount Mitchell. Bigfoot hotspot. There you go, guys. And camping in August. Our intentions were that my husband Larry would remain in Raleigh. Is that how you guys say that, Raleigh? To sell our home while I would stay in Burnsville and get to know the area. I quickly discovered Mount Mitchell and the Black Mountain Campground and began exploring the trails with my cattle dog pit bull mix, Bailey. The Upper River Loop is a moderate 3.5 trail that I have used since August to exercise my dog and enjoy an easy hike. The season for the campground closed on the last day in October. I have noticed, though, that some hikers still go there and that hunters cruise through there as there are places to hunt close by. I had seen a black bear on the River Loop Trail in September, but it left me alone. I always carry bear spray, and my dog remains on a lead at all times. I suppose that's smart in potential Sasquatch area. I'm thinking she probably kept her dog on a leash because of the wildlife in the area, the deer and bear, stuff like that. Raccoons, possums. On Thursday, the 6th of November, my husband came up with our other two dogs for 4 days, and we went hiking on a few of the trails I had discovered. We enjoyed the Upper River Loop Trail on Friday, and while we were on the steep side across from the South Toe River, I did something which maybe set me up for the experience. I had, though, I do not really know that. Oh, I'm sorry. I had, though. I do not really know that. Okay, so I guess she's pondering. She did something. She took some type of activity that instigated, initiated, was the catalyst, was the seed, the reason for some event that's going to happen later down the line. I just want to clear that up. I took off. We're back to the one. I took off a tan chiffon scarf I had been wearing, and I tied it around a bush growing on the side of the mountain as a marker for myself. We both laughed and thought it funny, but I put it there to tell myself where I was in relation to the Green Knob Trail, which transects the Upper River Loop Trail. Remembering my scarf, oh, I apologize again. Remember my scarf. Remember the 5th of November. The gunpowder, treason, and plot. No, remember my scarf, as it becomes the most particular part of this experience to me. I have never seen anyone on this trail when I have hiked it, except I do find signs that it says it is maintained by the North Carolina High Peaks. We enjoyed our time and came back to do other trails there, and also went up to Mount Mitchell. Larry left early Monday morning, and I continued to take my dog Bailey there, but had not done the river loop until I attempted to hike the river loop on that Thursday, the 13th. This is when my encounter happened. I returned home to Raleigh after that, and I am still here with my dog Bailey, helping my husband. My story on Thursday, the 13th of November. I put my dog Bailey in the car at 1 p.m. and drove 17 miles from my home to the Black Mountain campground. It is quite deserted now and a bit chilly, but I crossed over the South Toe River Bridge and walked around the greens of the campground before proceeding down the River Loop Trail moving northbound. We were not in any hurry, and I let Bailey smell all around as we took our time. The trails there are well groomed but full of roots and rocks, and one must be careful to pick their way through them. I had already strained my knee by falling over an unseen stump, and so I am quite careful on these mountain trails. As we proceeded down the trail moves up slightly so that there is a bit of a space between the trail and the South Toe River. The foliage is thick on both sides of the trail, which makes for a bit of a spooky sensation. I always have my bear spray with me. After moving away from the river, I begin to hear what I call pterodactyl calls. I know there are no pterodactyls, but it is the noise I associated with them after seeing shows that endeavor to create what prehistoric animals were like. They were sort of screams that a large bird would make, one more forceful than the other. My dog and I froze. It sounded like they were between us and the river. I have heard mountain lions before, and I have also heard strange noises raccoons can make, though the screams sounded too big to be made by a raccoon. At any rate, my dog was sort of whining, and I was unsure what I was getting into, so I decided to turn around and go back the way I came and simply hike elsewhere. Not long after turning around, about 100 feet ahead of me, where the trail turns slightly and slopes downward, I saw something blurry run across the trail. It was brown-colored and appeared to be on all fours, and I was almost certain it was a bear or a coyote or something like that. What was odd was my dog's response. He did not want to go get it, as he usually does. In fact, he sort of whimpered and leaned against me. I put my right hand on my bear spray and took the safety off, but left it in its holster. I could still hear the pterodactyl screams behind me, though they were not continuous but spaced apart. Well, moving southbound was closer to my car, and at this point I did not know what was behind me, and I was pretty sure of what was in front of me, and was confident that my bear spray could handle any problems I may have. So after coaxing my dog on, we continued. When I arrived at the place I saw the animal cross the trail, I looked for signs of bear or anything and found nothing at all. The trail at that point is like a river bottom, full of rocks and sand, and I found no tracks and no broken foliage. I was alarmed and removed my bear spray and held it in my right hand while I shortened Bailey's lead in case he decided to pull me. We continued, and I knew we were nearing the Brer Bottom Group campground, just north of the Black Mountain campground where my car was parked. Everything is more out in the open at that point, and I was sure I would be home safe if I could just get to that point. Moving onward for a good 15 minutes or so, I heard another one of the screams go off behind me, but they do not sound as though they are moving towards me. I can now see where the trail near the Brer Bottom campground in its grassy area, and that is when, right next to a power line, it steps out and straddles the trail, squaring off with me. I froze in sheer terror, but I looked it right in its eyes. It had to be 10 feet tall at least, and it had to be 4 feet wide as it straddled the trail. My only hope out of there. My 60-pound pit bull cattle dog mix let out 3 whimpers and then sat on my boot and began to shake. I looked down quickly, and I noticed it had a hold of something light-colored in its hand, but I went ahead and looked it right in the eyes again. Its face had no expression. I saw no teeth. I saw no movement of its face at all, but I can tell you it did not look like a monkey. It looked more human than monkey, and I saw no facial hair, but I am thinking it must have had hair on its jawline because I didn't see a jawline. After looking it in the eyes for the second time, I dropped my glance, and I asked God for help. And then I began to look at my shaking dog, and I thought about releasing him from his lead, but I still had the bear spray in my hand. And then I did something I used to do as a child when I was in a stressful situation. I began to count. I started at 1, and I counted while looking down at the ground. I heard more of the screams behind me again, and I knew I was now between whatever was behind me and the Sasquatch in front of me. I do not know what number I counted to. My dog was leaning hard against me and shaking when I heard a slow thump, thump, thump. I could tell from the sound it was walking away from me. I looked up to see it leaving up towards the mountain, and that is when I saw my scarf in its left hand. It was a hand, not a paw. It was a hand. It had my scarf clenched in its fist. Again, pterodactyl screams from way behind me now. I pulled my dog Bailey, kept my bear spray in my hand, and moved forward. Made it to my car and left quickly. I arrived at our Burnsville home, packed some things, and took myself and my dog Bailey back home to Raleigh. That is my story, and it just happened. I have been hiking and camping from California to Maine ever since I was a young girl. I had plans of filming a small documentary of the hiking trails that surround Mount Mitchell, and in doing so in a sort of Les Stroud style. I was going to go alone and even do the famous Crest Trail and camp overnight while filming with a GoPro Hero 4. Now, I do not know that I will be able to do that. If I do it at all, I will have my husband with me. The outdoors and adventure in the outdoors is everything to me. It's my lifestyle. I hope over time this experience will not rob this treasure from me, as it has always been my most precious of activities. Sincerely. Wow. Wow. What an amazing story. I think you guys would agree. I want to thank Adrienne, which may or may not be her real name, for sending this to me. And I can tell you that this woman did continue to do. She got over her fear, or at least was able to manage her fear enough to go back into the forest again. Now, a couple things that's really interesting about this story, and you guys probably picked up on it. Did you notice that when she ran across the Sasquatch, it was right next to a power line? That's really interesting, considering that this is like a wilderness area. I mean, is that just a coincidence? It's always fascinating to me when we get these accounts of Sasquatch either carrying articles, bits and pieces of clothing. Sometimes they'll stash pieces in the structures that a lot of people believe they make, or pieces of tarp. And there's even accounts of people seeing Sasquatch wearing clothes. So what do you guys think was going on here? There seems to be a connection. How is it that the Sasquatch, was it just random that he happened to have that scarf? Did he just pick that scarf up? Or was he somehow making contact with her because he knew she left the scarf? Was this a case of inadvertently gifting, right? Gifting without knowing it and then getting a response? Now, at first, reporting the sound of a pterodactyl sounds like, what? What's a pterodactyl doing there? Dinosaurs? Yeah, she probably saw a T-Rex too, Michael. We've heard very strange sounds, and that's often reported. It is often reported for people to hear strange sounds. Either maybe the Sasquatch are creating those sounds. There's another possibility that's even more strange. It's even stranger. A well-known Bigfoot researcher, Brenda Harris, She works out with the Navajo Nation. Reported seeing a pterodactyl in her area, in an area where they have a lot of Sasquatch and apparently skinwalkers and shapeshifters and ghosts and all kinds of weird stuff goes on in this area. She saw a pterodactyl fly over the top of it. Like, apparently it wasn't like way up in the sky. It was quite low, like buzzed her Jeep or her vehicle. Is Sasquatch somehow opening up vortexes to the past and utilizing our power grid to do it? Like, is there a connection? Is there a connection to the high power line? I don't know. Maybe we'll never know. All right, I hope you guys enjoyed that. I found this to be... people send me some really compelling stories. Oh, which reminds me, if you have a story, an encounter that you would like to share, and I know you guys do, because oftentimes you guys will give me little bits and pieces in the comment section. If you want, write me up your account, and I'll talk about it. I will share it with the peeps. My email is zenyetiprime@gmail.com. I will also put it in the bottom bar. Thanks, guys, for listening. Leave your comments down below. Let me think what you think about this story. The other thing, I'm going to leave one more point, is you may notice this woman was very detail-orientated. Like, she had the numbers down, the dates, the times, which I found that led credibility to the story, because that seems to be a personality trait. You know, like, she's very consistent. The story is very consistent and shocking. And 10 feet tall, that is not small. The other thing is that you'll notice there are some people that believe that there are two types of Sasquatch. There are a type that is like the one that this woman reported, with very human-like characteristics, except just way bigger and covered in fur, as opposed to the more commonly reported one on the West Coast, which tends to have, gorilla attributes. In Maine, we seem to get nearly equal. Well, yeah, we get both. We get both ones that look very human, and then we have ones that are referred to as either chimps or gorillas.